Yeah, I didn't even really, it doesn't bong when you come nowadays. Used to actually make a noise.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe your bomb's broke.
Possibly, yeah. Hey, morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Sorry, my fault. I didn't see Dave arrive, and then I'm looking at the clock, going, "Where the fuck's Dave? Oops, sorry, where the
Yeah.
f is Dave?" And then I realised, oh, he's right there. He's probably been watching me for the last 10 minutes. Hmm.
Well, about 4 minutes.
My apologies, everyone. I was early, but and Dave was early, but I didn't see Dave. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. So moving on. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning, where we talk about the news and events that impact Niagara. And welcome to October.
October 1st today.
Yeah. So spooky month, and I guess a special month for my family now, with my son being born in October, his wife being born in October. They have their wedding anniversary in October. There you go.
Oh, that's cool. Well, um, my son, my oldest boy, the one that got me married, thanks very much, was uh, in September. So,
Mm, yeah. All right. So Ford wants to introduce surveillance cameras in Ontario. He said a few days ago he didn't want speed cameras, but now he wants surveillance cameras. And basically, what he's saying is there's a program out there. He was talking to the mayor of Hamilton about crime, and he said he wants to introduce cameras on crime to stop, um, to try and reduce the incidence of crime, or at least catch people who are doing it, right?
well,
And
crime. Let's face it. Well, one of the reasons why crime has gone up so much is because it's easy to do in Ontario, and there's little consequence.
yeah,
You can go into a store and steal a bunch of stuff and just walk out. You talk to any store owner, and that happens every once in a while. Somebody comes in, grabs something, and just walks right out the door as fast as they can. And if the storekeeper's got other customers in there, then it's not worth it. They don't phone the cops because the cops don't come.
yeah,
That kind of thing. I was working at Staples there. Somebody was when I was on shift. One of the other Kiwanians were there. Somebody tried to steal a laptop or something like that. They didn't even bother calling cops. They just took it away from them and threw them out because it takes them forever to get a cop there. They had something to do with an incident. Another incident that didn't have to do with thievery. It was day 3 before they even knew if a cop was going to come for that particular incident.
yeah,
So one of the things that are bottling up cops, of course, is the forever homeless people and their drug addictions, and trying to keep them away from the public. So why not commit a crime in Ontario? It's easy. And if
yeah.
you get caught, you get a slap on the wrist and back out on the street.
Well, and that's what's got to stop. We get one of the things like. Yeah, and I can point you to it. I never knew that they had as wide use of CCTV as they do, but in the UK, they've kind of gotten now CCTV cameras everywhere. They've got monitoring stations attached to 911. So if you hear there's a robbery, it basically the information goes to the CCTV operator as quickly as possible. They can often retrack what happened. If a store got robbed, they can retrack what happened, see the person coming out the store, the suspicious person coming out the store, and track them through the neighborhood.
Well, what does it do? Look at the jewelry stores that are getting raided, right? All the guys do is put on hoodies and masks, go in, smash up the consoles, take the jewelry, and run away.
Well, you think about it.
You can have as many cameras on them as you want. You're never going to know who it is.
Yeah, and you could probably have tens of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry in your pocket and run as fast as you want. It's not going to slow you down, right?
Yeah, but the idea is if the cameras are there, what are they going to tell? They're going to tell anything because the guys know the cameras are there.
The cameras, if rewound, could actually trace you where you go.
Well, you're talking about the massive Chinese style camera systems.
I'm talking about
I'll put this out here that Doug Ford at one time didn't like the Big Brother aspect of the cameras for speeding. He said it was a tax grab. It was a Big Brother thing. Well, what do you think this is? I mean, are you really comfortable with having somebody look at you all day long?
So long as they're kept out of the residential roads. For example, I live on 2nd Avenue. If there's one up the commercial street on Bridge Street, I have no problem. I have no problem with the one on Bridge Street. In fact, 2 or 3 on Bridge Street that are actually following things up on the commercial zones on Bridge Street. That's fine. I have no problem.
Somebody steals your neighbor's lawnmower, and he wants a camera on that street. What are you going to do about it then?
No, you see, if a person comes out with a lawnmower onto Bridge Street, then you can follow them.
Well, yeah. What they're talking about is really extensive surveillance here.
Yeah.
Talk about Big Brother. That's it. The criminals, they realize that if they're going to look, the people who knock over jewelry stores, they were going into jewelry stores and smashing into a jewelry store, smashing up all the display counters, take as many jewels as they could and run out. And they had hoodies and masks on. And they ran outside, and other cameras and that, they just know where to park the car, where to go to get in the car, and where to take off from. They know where the cameras are.
Yeah.
One outfit just kept doing it. I think they may have caught up to one of them because the criminals are not always the smartest, but they could do that over and over again. But they're going to need a fence and that kind of thing. But the camera there, the extensive cameras that were in play in a jewelry store didn't work. They don't work in malls, right? Where people go into malls and just attack a place, take whatever it is and run out. Because the mall can't help. They don't really have. All they got is a mask and a hoodie, basically. So I'm not so sure that the results will.
Unless we put them away. Yeah, unless we put them away, unless we do something about how we jail them, finding them and just bailing them is not a good idea.
I think that's a big part of it. The Liberal government just went too flaky, too snowflake when it came up with laws that were light on crime. I know the reasoning was like keep them away from other criminals, don't put them in jail, that kind of thing. But all they do is a criminal will abuse you, and the criminal doesn't say, "Hey, they were really nice to me. I'm not going to do any more crime." The criminal says, look what I got away with, even when I got caught. So the deterrent's definitely a deterrent. We know that drinking and driving has gone down substantially because of RIDE.
Yeah.
When drinking and driving comes out and you say to everyone, the people who are not going to drink and drive are going to be the ones that don't drink and drive, whether you got a law or not.
Yeah.
Then there's these in-between people that will drink and drive. Well, maybe I'll have a couple, and others will just try to get away with it.
Yeah.
So drinking and driving has come down because of what will the consequences will be.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
And Ride Stop certainly helps that. And the equivalent, in my mind, the equivalent of Ride here is the ability to use CCTV cameras in order to get those criminals and actually enforce the law. You've got to enforce the law, though, The cameras alone don't help.
No, the cameras might help you to find some of them, and I'm not even sure that we warrant the expense. But if they could demonstrate it reduces crime, I suppose I go along with it. The same reason why I would go along with the cameras around school zones. I don't think any amount of signage is going to stop anybody. The idea that they'll get a ticket is what's going to slow them down. Most people.
And generally that I agree to. And I think all school zones with main roads alongside them, the main roads should actually have permanent traffic cameras there.
Yeah, quite possibly. The very idea that you know that you're going to get a ticket there. And also, if you're in a hurry or in a rush, or your mind's not in the right place, and you're bombing down the road, you're late for an appointment, you just had an argument with your wife, you're all messed up, but you'll always remember that I'm going to get a ticket here if I don't slow down.
Yeah,
it's a nice little reset. But if it's just a big sign there, a huge sign which Ford wants to put up, I don't think that's going to do the trick. As much as I hate cameras looking at us all the time, I think that's inevitable anyway. You can't go anywhere without somebody having you on a camera, right? You're being tracked every day by Google and YouTube and Facebook and all the merchandising. You know what I mean? That what's gonna, they're trying to feed you certain things. So yeah. I mean,
apparently these cameras cost about 15 grand, but Ford said there's a fund to grant for a grant for closed circuit TV cameras that allows OPP detachments and local police services to set up CCTV cameras within the province, covering half of the cost of the maximum of 300,000 a year. So setting up, you can get a 300,000 from the province for doing so.
We also have to rely on technology too, because policing is extremely expensive. If you want to reduce crime, you have to increase policing, and policing is extremely expensive.
On the foot,
each police officer costs us a lot of money. I mean, they make good money, good benefits, good pension funds, so they are expensive. And how then will you help defeat crime when the criminal element grows and the policing cannot grow because of the money that it costs to keep them out there? So what do?
Well, the police need to be on the beat. The police need to be on foot, not.
Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. They ain't going to go on the beat.
No, I know. That's a part of the problem that we have.
They'll go to the gym and exercise, but they won't walk down the street.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem that we have. We need a presence of the police on the high street.
Yeah, but you're not going to get it, because the reason is you have too few cops spread over too big of an area. And I agree with you. You should have them walking down the street and their personal presence being felt, and they get to know the shopkeepers and all that other stuff, like the cop on the beat used to.
Yeah.
I remember the beat cop going into
your neighborhood where you are, between your apartment building and the Dorchester lights on on Thoroldstone. That's quite a high business traffic area. I would say that CCTV cameras and beat cops would help reduce crime in those stores.
You're not getting much crime here.
Maybe not, but
you're not even getting a whole lot of homeless people here. You're not really seeing a whole lot of crime here.
Well, maybe not, but in areas where there's higher crime incidents, you'd start with those first, right?
I would say vulnerable, like say downtown Queen Street, where there are still some businesses or something, but I would say malls and all that other stuff where I don't know, wherever I'm pretty sure that some of the high-end
I'm pretty sure
neighborhoods already have their own camera systems.
I'm pretty sure that malls already have monitoring. In fact, actually, there's many homes. I've considered putting cameras around my home. Basically, one looking in that direction down the street, one looking in that direction down the street, one on my driveway, and one in my back, just in case somebody breaks through the back. So we've got info about them. But again, and I'd have no problem making those films available to the police if I knew something had happened or that we could assist.
I don't know. Each person can do as what they please, right? And you've gone past more expensive properties where it's told you there are surveillance cameras on this property.
Yeah,
so that that's a deterrent for anybody. But I'm not so sure that what Ford is proposing here, you're going to get value for money.
What
you're going to do is you're going to identify another guy in a hoodie with a face mask, and you're going to say, "Oh, we spotted him coming, and we spotted him hitting this place and getting out, but we don't know who he is." And he got.
Well, actually, believe it or not, one of the things they found about the CCTV system in the UK is they have manual operators and they follow these people, and very often, about 3 blocks down, they tear their hood off.
Well, they also found out, and I read this too, that they found that the thieves find blind spots in the camera surveillance, so they'll run to one of those blind spots and then change their clothes. So they quickly find the blind spots where the cameras are, usually on a little bit of a side street or something like that.
Yeah.
And then get rid of their hoodie and their mask or whatever, and then saunter on somewhere else. And so there might be some advantages to it, but I'm not quite sure. But we are moving towards a surveillance society. I don't particularly like it. We criticize the Chinese because they have a social credit system, and all their faces are put on you can't escape the social credit system. They know who you are. They have face imaging, and they even know your gait. So the computer knows where you are at all times. So if you do a jaywalk, you're going to get a letter from the government. You're a bad citizen.
We don't want to go that. We don't want to go that far. We only want to cover the primarily the in danger commercial areas.
Well, how long will it be before they find an excuse? If you got a guy like Trump in our politics, they'll find excuses to do that, to use it. Like he's shifting the country toward an authoritarian regime where he's putting in army into different places. He's trying to control the news by threatening people. How long before that happens? Before they weaponize surveillance? How long? We are being tested right now with what's happening in the States in this shift towards authoritarian power. And so okay, I don't know. Do you really want to give it extra assist by the surveillance? Now, if it can be proved that crime goes down and that criminals are caught with this system, I'd be fine with it. But okay. I just don't believe that it would be that effective.
So Mike says they let everyone out on bail, early release. There's no room in the jails. Yeah, they need to make more room in the jails. Dave, they're robbing stores every day like crazy. And I do believe that one of the things I see...
Yeah, but they also, all those stores have surveillance cameras, and they're not catching anyone because they put on a hoodie and a mask.
Yeah, but they don't have... What you need is, like the UK, where the store actually pushes a button to say, hey, we're being robbed, right? And the CCTV cameras follow the person out the store, and and it's so often they just follow them down the street. street corner to street corner to street corner to street corner, and along comes a cop in a car and nabs them.
Yeah, but as I said before, the smart criminals know where the blind spots are in all those camera systems.
But most
So
criminals
the smart guys can blame it. How many? Seriously, of all the crimes that have been happening in Canada, the United States, where people just walk in and sort of mob the place and steal everything. That's another thing, is the mob thefts. When you get a big mob of people going into a Walmart or something, taking everything they want, or anything and everything they want, and run out. There's too many people for the cops to catch. They all have masks on. So who is it? There are men and women involved. So where do you then start?
Well, they're going to end up getting in cars. The cars all have number plates on them. They all go past a camera at a certain point.
It's so easy to change your license plate and steal Peter Giblett's license plate, put him on your car, and send the cops to his house. You see what I mean? How easy that is?
I know. Does happen, that's for sure.
Happens all the time. If these guys do use a car they either use a stolen car, right, which doesn't lead back to them, or they use stolen plates.
Actually, I think stolen plates are more frequent than stolen cars these days, because it's harder to steal cars these days.
Oh, so you go to any neighborhood and take the plates off. That happened to my brother. A crook that I knew was using his plates. He had a car, and it was just a parts car. Somebody took the plates off of it, and I found out who it was. It was a crook who was stealing boats. Okay,
so moving on. Here's an interesting one. Via Rail stops the nonstop Montreal-Toronto service pilot project. And basically, it didn't even start. It was supposed to start on Monday, 6:45 a.m., 4:39 p.m., Montreal to Toronto, and 6:32 a.m. and 5:08 p.m., Toronto to Montreal trains.
That's not quite. That's stopped now, right?
It
doesn't surprise me that the government and via or whatever just didn't have the organizational wherewithal to get this up and running.
And basically, what it was going to do, those 4 trains in the day were going to bypass Oshawa, Cobourg, Belleville, Kingston, Cornwall, and Dorval, and go straight into their respective town centres. Right, and basically, the whole problem is because I think there's an issue about running trains faster down CN track, and by doing this, they'd end up in roadblocks along the way, so to speak.
It has to do with timing, organization, all of that kind of thing, so that when the rails go down, the guardrails go down, they're only down long enough to get the train past them, kind of thing. So it'll take coordination, and the fact that they weren't able to coordinate this when they wanted to is not a surprise to me, because it seems to me that all these government agencies are all bogged down with bureaucracy and they just don't know what the right hand and the left doesn't know what the left hand is doing. Hopefully they'll sort that out. And we'll have a nice quick train, nonstop trains, a couple of days back and forth to Montreal. That'd be great for tourism, for one thing. That would be just great for tourism. But the other thing too is it'll be good for the commerce and things that need to go between Montreal and Toronto, Canada's 2 largest cities.
Here's the interesting thing is Brockville Mayor Matt Wren is basically saying this isn't about a pilot project for a faster train. This is about cutting services to their stations.
Well, yeah, he's believe me, I know that this isn't really about cutting service to his train station. but it may end up being that way because the Brockville stop is not important financially. Remember, places like CN and VRL are supposed to serve these communities, and they're not really. And actually, the big money is a straight run between Montreal and Toronto. So stopping in Brockville, oh well, no, maybe not. It'll slow things down. So yeah, I understand when there's been a lot of places where they have lost their train stations and they don't have train transport anymore. And that used to be a lifeline for them. So I understand his angst.
I would think that Oshawa, Cobourg, Belleville are actually probably in commuter range to Toronto. If you can time that right, you can get on a train and you're in Toronto downtown pretty quickly. And similar with Dorval and with the gap between Dorval and I guess even Cornwall and Montreal. Maybe you can cut the timing there between those those destinations. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, they're gonna basically what they have is a milk run now and an express.
Yeah.
So the milk runs are the ones where you go along and you pick up all the little towns along the way. They used to have a bus service here from Niagara Falls to Hamilton, and there was the express or the milk run.
Yeah.
If you didn't get on the express, you had to sit on the milk run, and then they went down Highway 20, and it stopped on every little town along the way, and it took like 2.5 hours to get from here to Hamilton. But they picked up and dropped off everybody along the way, so it did a service. It did a really good service. It helped out the little rural communities that would not otherwise get bus transport. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, I don't think, because it's not cost effective. And I don't.
No, I've seen there's a milk run one that does the Go Bus has a milk run that goes to like it's possible on Burlington to get on a Go Bus that goes straight to Niagara Falls, doesn't stop anywhere along the route. You've also got another one that stops in Grimsby, in Grimsby, in Beamsville, in Vineland, in St. Catharines before going to Niagara Falls.
Yeah. So so you get you still want to serve your communities as much as you can, particularly smaller communities. So they're not going to pay a whole lot, but those communities need to be served.
Yeah.
That's, I think, where the government has to step in. So when you have an express like that, yeah, it's very good. It's a big money-making operation. Toronto to Montreal Express, beautiful, nice money-making operation. But you still have to have the milk run somewhere in there. You know what I mean?
In my mind, you leave the milk run alone. You add a new express train.
Yeah, or you could semi-express. You could have the express stop at one.
Yeah.
One of the towns along the way, maybe the largest one.
Yeah. For example, Kingston.
Right? Yeah, Kingston would be a good bet to stop at.
Yeah. So you basically do Toronto to Montreal, stopping at Kingston on the way. Boof. And that point, then you could actually do Kingston could serve Belleville, Brockville, etc. in a slow train. There could be a Kingston to Montreal slow train that covers those smaller communities, and likewise there could be a Kingston to Toronto slow train that covers Oshawa, Cobourg, and.
Well, we're making a lot of assumptions here. We don't know what the train traffic is or the demand for it. Brockville, of course, is very stressed about it, enough that the mayor is accusing the government of trying to eliminate Brockville. Like, that is probably part of their purpose, he feels. I don't think that is really fair unless you bring proof to it. But the pure accusation means that the government will have to answer that one way or another. You're accusing us of shutting you down just because you're Brockville and you don't make as much money. We'll see. But a place like Brockville may need that train. That train is important to people from Brockville.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not gonna save anyone. My mother came from a little wee town up north called Nipigon, right at the top of Lake Superior, and that train was vital. It was a lifeline.
Yeah.
And now you can't get a train in and out of it. You can't get a people train into Thunder Bay.
Which is quite surprising, really. Why don't we run those kind of services?
You know what? They're going, like, all the rail lines, all the rural rail lines I saw torn up, the TH&B, the old Grand Trunk or whatever it was that was there. I'm not sure it was a Grand Trunk, but they had all these old rail lines. They were tearing up along the countryside when I went back and forth to Nanticoke for 25 years. And every time I saw them, I thought they're going to regret this one day. Yeah. They're going to want those rail lines. And that's exactly what's going to happen too, because those rail lines could connect a large part of Ontario with transportation networks. You really want to steer yourself away from using a car all the time.
You can't.
One individual pushing 2,000 pounds of steel, plastic, and rubber around for one individual. You want to steer towards public transportation if you can.
And when you think about it, Dave, you can't even, if we're talking about locally here, there's not even a train from Port Colborne to St. Catharines or a train from Fort Erie to Niagara Falls.
No. And this old train line that's close to my house here, the old Toronto Hamilton, Niagara Hamilton, Niagara St. Catharines Hamilton, or Niagara St. Catharines Toronto, whatever it was, that tram line here. That, if that was still operating, it would have been boss. You know what? If that would have been super if it was still operating, right? It went from Welland to St. Catharines to Hamilton. They didn't need it. There was that lull period, but I bet you they'd love to have it right back again.
Yeah.
It was an electric tram line that ran all the places. You think, wow, it'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't substitute buses, because what happens to buses? They get gnarled up in traffic jams.
Yeah, in traffic jams. Yeah. And the point being is that if you've got a line, you see, rail lines operate independent of the traffic. The only way in which the traffic might hold up the railways is if there's traffic jams across the, where the rail lines and roads meet.
I try to commute with a bus to Toronto from Niagara Falls. Now, the bus was to get to Toronto by 8 o'clock every day. It's where it's supposed to go, but it never made it on time because of traffic.
Yeah. Well,
which meant that I had to give up the pass and I had to get the money back for it. Yeah. Because it couldn't get me into Toronto on time. If it got me there at 8 o'clock, I would have been fine. But it was getting me there 20 after, and that was just too late.
Yeah.
So
again, I went to a meeting in Toronto Airport with public transport. I left myself more than ample time. 2 hours. At least 2 hours going there on via rail from Niagara. It took actually 3 and a bit last time I went up there. And then basically I just gave myself plenty of cushion in the meanwhile. But it was a Sunday that I did the trip, right?
Well, so there you have it. What else do we have? We kind of flooded the train thing a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, moving on, again with the 51st state, Trump speaks to military officials about this whole concept. And he's bringing it up again, particularly in relation to the Golden Dome missile defense plan. And apparently he said, Canada called me a couple of weeks ago and want to be part of the Golden Dome defense plan. But they should just be, I told them they should become part of the 51st state. Well,
I don't know. The man's a very ignorant man. That's the problem. I mean, I'm not saying everybody says he's stupid. I'm not saying he's stupid.
No.
But I do say he's ignorant. And it takes a lot of people to kind of convince him of his ignorance. And if he's surrounded by sycophants who will tell him only what he wants to hear all the time, that's not going to work. But Canada becoming the United States is not an option. The Golden Dome, or whatever he wants to call it, I think that's a pipe dream down the line a bit. I mean, he talked to his military about it. They may have plans and such to do that. Meanwhile, NORAD runs very, very efficiently between the United States and Canada. Recently, when they had the generals under Congress and they were asking about the protections of the border and all the military cooperation between Canada and the U.S., it was first rate. The only drawback that the generals had, that Canada should be spending more. Well, we're doing that now. And they were right about that. And but as far as the cooperation and back and forth, it was first rate, according to American generals, at a time when Trump would rather have hear that it wasn't. So we know that it works between us.
Yeah, and you see, Trump was right back in his 1620 government when saying about how bad our spending was on borders, and that's been turned around in the last year or so, right? So we've been taking measures to get that, to move that in the right direction. Are we perfect? Probably not, but we've headed in the right direction, and now of course they're linking this to basically with the question of the tariffs. He's basically saying, and unless you do something, you've got to actually figure this out in order to stop the tariffs.
Yeah, well, we're in a pretty tight spot right now. Now I just heard a news article about Canadian lumber in the United States. I guess they have vast stores of Canadian lumber. They have walls and walls and walls of Canadian lumber that they bought ahead of time before the tariffs. So there is no for several months, you're not going to find the demand for Canadian lumber in the United States go down because of it is going to go down because of the tariffs. But in the meantime, the market down there is not going to suffer because the suppliers front-loaded Canadian lumber. They know how important it is for home building down there, and it is a preferred product, Canadian lumber. There's all kinds of theories about it. One meaning Canadian softwood grows slower because it's a colder climate, and then somehow becomes a better quality of softwood, any kind of thing. But I think it's the volume that we have, and so they front loaded huge down there, as they did on a lot of stuff like nickel and copper and aluminum and all that other stuff. Sooner or later, those supplies will run out.
Those supplies will run out probably sooner rather than later. Those supplies, essentially, I can't see them having more than a year's supply front loaded.
Yeah. Another thing that's maintaining that is because other materials that make up housing have gone way up in price. So the stuff they used to get from China, the doorknobs and the doors and all kinds of other little things they used to get offshore that now have big tariffs on it, is helping to stifle the housing market in the United States. So for the short term, they won't have to pay, anybody who buys a house won't have to pay an extra amount for the tariffs from Canadian softwood lumber because they've front loaded so much of it. But eventually that'll change. But the effect of the tariffs on other things that make up housing is beginning to rear its ugly head. So we're in for a bit of trouble here because Trump has no need to do anything right now, and CUSMA is coming up, Canadian, U.S., Mexican trade deal. And there's no real reason why the U.S. should renegotiate it, because Trump knows it takes so long for these things to have an effect that he can do anything. And then when it does have an effect, he can change his mind and make a tweak here and a tweak there, like he did with nickel.
Yeah.
So quietly under the table, he says, "Oh, you better let the nickel in." So he reduced the tariff on nickel. He doesn't go out and make a big announcement. He makes a big announcement when he puts a tariff on, but he doesn't make a big announcement when
he
take
takes
a bit
it
of
off.
tariff off.
Yeah. And unless you happen to be in the nickel industry, you probably wouldn't even know it happened.
Yeah, really.
That's the thing about this. And so
I think they reduced the tariff on refined copper too. So,
and the other thing is, we also know they ended up reducing the tariffs on the car parts.
Yes, for now. And
For now, yeah.
Well, you got GM laying off people. You got the coal miners, even though they coal mines, gas, a lot of the oil wells and stuff are laying off people. So they're trying to say that these are the growing pains of the tariff system and it's going to be just fine. Other people say it's going to be a one-time hit where the economy is going to be hit with increases in products, but that will happen one time and the market will adjust to it. There's all kinds of theories. I got to hand it to now Trump, Johnson and Trump talk about left-leaning media. They've taken money away from left-leaning media, and what they mean by that is PBS and NPR. They've taken money away from them. But NPR is doing the best now that they've ever done, in my opinion. They had Newt Gingrich being interviewed on the radio, and I was very impressed by that. That's the first time I could understand where Newt Gingrich was coming from, because he didn't feel that he had to be a Fox lion on Fox and exaggerate his position. And of course, PBS not trying to, or NPR, wherever I heard it, did not try to be, confrontational from the left. So I heard a very good interview.
They were trying to
be left wing. It was one of the best I've heard, because I could understand where Newt Gingrich is coming from much better than I could from Fox or CNN, who have different takes on the guy.
Yeah, because they were doing a balanced presentation.
Yes, they were, and they allowed him to speak intellectually on his position rather than, Biden's a jerk, Trump's a hero, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now he did give Trump some praise in there about something specific, but it wasn't like universal praise. You're the king of the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. And if NPR continues to be a balanced reporter, I'll be very, very happy, because they weren't for the longest time.
Yeah. And I'd be, much happier to hear that type of thing than I am the rhetoric that we hear with a lot of the press.
Oh, Fox makes me vomit, but I watch them just to see what their angle is. And CNN, I get frustrated at them for picking up on the tiniest, most pettiest thing and amplifying it. Stick with the facts. And of course, social media is just too stupid. The right's way too right, the left's way too right. And has anyone got in that business about the left attacking churches? And you've got, you've got a Trump supporter who wears Trump T-shirts, has a Trump sign on his house. He has 2 American flags on the truck that he rammed the church with, and he shoots it up. And they're trying to say he's a leftist. Well, he's a Trump supporter, and he had a bone to pick against the Mormon church, not any other churches. So that BS has got to stop too. As soon as somebody does something atrocious, you point the finger. These are isolated people that do these things. there's very little connection with them to anyone, any organized group. So that business that left or right driven terror. Here you have somebody attacking a church that was definitely right-wing Trump supporter guy, so
Yeah.
maybe for the press or politicians to start pointing the fingers at each other, I don't know. It serves Trump for the moment, but that one backfired on him.
Well, let's move on to this other one that was U.S. Border Agency launches a review after a viral video appears to show an officer yelling, "Never come back to the U.S. again," to the Canadian driver while driving on the I-90 towards the Queenston-Lewiston Bridge.
Somebody had a bit of road rage going on there, didn't they?
What a frigging idiot.
Maybe. Okay, we don't know what transpired before.
No, we don't. We don't know what transpired right before that. And there could have been something between the drivers. All that we've got released is the point where he comes up alongside the probably Canadian driver and shouts at them. And, he is saying, he is saying never come back to the US again. It seems that way. I looked at the video. It looks like that.
Yes, it was. Matter of fact, he did say that because they were able to sort it out, and they know his license plate, and it looks as if he works for Border Services, an immigration officer or something like that, and he's screaming. But we don't know what transpired before that. Now, the very first thing. Now he made me cut off. He may have, I don't know what he might have done on the road that was outrageous or something that sparked a rage in this guy. But that is completely unprofessional what he did. It's like a police officer or fire department or anybody else, like freaking out on somebody for an incident that may have happened on the road and screaming at them, "Don't ever come back to the United States ever again," kind of thing. This guy lost it. He has to go back. He has to go back to charm school. They're going to have to tell him what he can say and what he can't say. And he has a professional obligation.
I think even Donald Trump would tell him that, right?
Well, Donald Trump would have said, to pull over the Canadians and insist they become part of the United States. But, apart from that, yeah. So he has got to go back to charm school. They got to say to him, this is what you have a professional ethic responsibility. When you wear that uniform, you're representing the American government.
Absolutely.
And the border services. And if you are freaking out like that, you are unstable and unprofessional.
Yeah.
That doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for you, and it doesn't look good for us. So I have a feeling this is a bit of road rage. The guy had a bad day, and he just freaked out, and he probably regrets every minute of it. I bet you he regretted it before even it went online.
And it's clear his badge is U.S. Customs and Border Protection badge. That's clear from the video. I watched it before we went on air this morning. Very clear from the video.
Well, also is his license plate. Of course, they have the make and license plate of the car. So you can be very assured that Mr. Road Rage is having had a talking to.
Yeah.
And they're saying you have professional responsibilities. You cannot look unhinged like that anymore because you're supposed to keep your calm, keep it calm, right? What are you going to do if we have a real incident at the border? You're going to freak out? We're going to keep calm.
Yeah. In fact, actually, it doesn't, if you had an invasion of people that you didn't want, for whatever reason, you didn't want in the United States, you have a professional responsibility to keep calm, process them, refuse them as appropriate by the law.
Keep calm and carry on.
Yeah. And the U.S. The spokesman for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Services basically said CBP employees and agents perform their duties with honor and distinction, working tirelessly every day to keep our country safe. CBP is committed to ensuring that all employees are held to the highest standards of integrity, professionalism, and personal conduct. And in fact, actually, there was a notice about this last time I went across the border.
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, ever since Trump got in, or at least even before that, like half a year before that, I found a big difference in the American Border Patrol people. They were much more professional. They were a lot less petty. You can get them to be really petty and ask stupid questions and stuff you don't really understand, kind of like trying to do catch-up stuff. You know, when Dave Wheeler, Mr. Ordinary Everyday Citizen, nondescript citizen, goes over and starts getting whipped by a guard because I didn't use certain terminology that they were supposed to be. I don't know. It was dumb, but it's not now. You talk to the border guys, they're more like they can look you over pretty quick, understand who you are, talk to you, ask you a few questions, and away you go.
Yeah.
I think they're much better than they used to be.
And normally it's like, well, and talking about just heading, if I'm heading across, it's often been the question that I get is, where are you going? Yeah, Military Road. That's it. Right, shopping at Military Road, and that basically is.
I'm going to Military Road to buy some guns.
well, all the shops in Niagara Falls are in the Military Road, Niagara Falls Boulevard area, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just cross it and I say, "Well, I'll be getting gone for a couple of weeks. Where are you going? Go see a friend. Who's a friend?" I tell them. Usually they don't push me that much longer. They've got a record of my crossing the border. You know, I mean, obviously, if they look me up,
that information is up there. The moment you put your passport in there and they scan it, or you put your Nexus card on the system, that pops up on the border guards page.
Sure,
instant.
You know what I'm all about.
They know that you've been there 200 times before. You know, they know you go back home. You know, they know that, hey, he came for this lacrosse game or this hockey game, and he stayed 3 hours and he went back again.
Yeah, so
you're not the kind of risky person that they're interested in.
No, I could cross over there for a Friday night, like you used to do. And then, but nowadays they got records. Like you used to be able to cross over. They didn't even look at you. They didn't record you. Now they have to record you every time you go over and come back.
Yeah.
Before I used to just be able to walk over there and then walk back because they knew that was going to happen,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And they also know which bridge you cross most of the time.
Yeah. But it doesn't really matter.
All of that
doesn't really matter. They have, but anyway, so we have one guy having a bit of road rage. I'm sure he regrets it big time.
Probably
because he's all over the internet, and he has embarrassed the border services, if indeed he does work for them, which it seems that he does.
Yeah,
they have his license plate number, and they have a video of him, and so we don't know what transpired prior to that. But a guy losing it and having road rage when he has the uniform on of a government agency like that is not good. Not a good look. Now, if he was plain clothes, something like that on his day off, even that's not really that good. But he has to remember who he is.
Yeah. Okay. moving on. Changes are coming to Ontario's recycling system. An organisation called Circular Materials, which is a national not-for-profit organisation, will be taking control of blue box recyclables in the new year, and more materials will be accepted into blue boxes than ever before. Interesting thing is they're saying we'll now be able to recycle coffee cups, already do it, deodorant containers, don't do them, toothpaste, don't do them, ice cream tubs, been doing that for years, black plastic containers, been doing that for years, frozen juice containers, been doing that for years. So what's new?
I don't know. They're just encouraging people. What they're trying to do here is tell about the circulatory system, basically, of recyclables. So what they're trying to encourage is when you recycle something, it goes back to the source of origin, basically, whoever made it, so that they are the ones that are going to be paying pretty much for the recycling, and then try to take as much of that and reintroduce it into the system, so you have the circular thing, rather than what you have now is you have, oh, maybe I'll take it or maybe I'll take it. So they wanted to go back to the manufacturers. I don't know how well that's going to work with the plastics, but definitely with glass. It's already happened with glass, steel, all that stuff. So if you've got cans, manufactured and it's it's Brights or whoever's making the cans, or that it'll go back somehow for them to deal with the recycling part of it, which shouldn't be a big deal, because they'll be taking. I've seen scads and scads of cans being put into the huge vessels and watch the iron being poured over it, and steel being made out of it. So that's going to be not a problem. So any kind of metals are going to be infinitely recyclable, but shouldn't be paper, and particularly plastics. Plastics are the tough ones.
You see, coffee cups. Okay, I've always separated the plastic part from the paper part. The paper part goes into the normal paper bin. The plastic goes into the plastic bin. End of story. All right. Never done deodorant containers, but that's an interesting concept. Or toothpaste tubes. That's again an interesting concept, especially if they are actually saying about taking those back to the original manufacturers.
Yeah, so they're trying to get this circulatory thing going where they're trying to. That's the way I get it, anyway. I mean, I haven't looked that deeply into it, but I remember a previous article we read here about that, about the recycling system, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to take as much of the financial responsibility off the taxpayer and put it back on those that produced it. And they can deal with the recycling of that, that kind of thing. I don't know how effective that's going to be. It sounds like a good idea, but like I said before, glass, steel, all kinds of metals are infinitely recyclable. Paper is recyclable over and over again. A piece of paper, quality paper, can be recycled 3 or 4 times before a new pulp has to be added to it. So we can do a lot of recycling of paper. That's not a problem either.
And I think the toothpaste tubes, for example, I see a problem with toothpaste tubes. If you wind the clock back to the old metallic tubes where you could actually, you could do them, they would actually all the way unfold, because what would happen is the end would be crimped in with a mechanical crimper. You could unwind those things. With the right tools, you could unwind those things and get to the back end of the toothpaste tube. The modern plastic toothpaste tubes are a waste of space, because what'll end up happening is, how can you unseal it and refill it? You can't.
No, I don't think they're imagining refilling it. I don't know what they're going to do with them. Basically, you lose a lot of you lose probably about 5 toothbrushes full when you get rid of one of them, because there's all kinds of residual toothpaste in them. So I don't know, if you were smart, you take scissors and cut them and get the rest of your tooth stuff out before you're recycling it. But that's the waste economy that we have. Unfortunately, we do waste a ton of stuff.
Well, if you were to use the old style toothpaste, the ones with the metallic tubes, then you could certainly recycle them because you could uncrimp them.
Yeah, possibly, but I don't know what they're going to do with it, toothpaste tubes or whatever. But they are taking them because they're going to end up in a landfill otherwise. So, what they plan to do with them, who knows?
Yeah.
In order to refill them, that seems to be more expensive than just making a new one.
And
because
by the way,
they're cheap.
And by the way, the black plastic containers were supposed to be outlawed anyway by, I think, the federal government about 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's what they say in the article.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if you still got one kicking around, they can go into the recycling.
Mm. And again, I'm pretty sure they're not the same, but the ones I've gotten actually from a takeaway store, it's got black on one side and clear on the other side. I'm not sure that they're black plastic containers, if you know what I mean, in the old-fashioned sense. They're probably new, more effectively, biodegradable. And not
when you buy these things too, they buy them in bulk, so there could be a lot of them left out there.
That's true.
They could be used up. But any case, just throw them into the into the recycling. And I don't know. It's just a system that tries to improve the recycling by kind of circulating it, like a circulatory system of waste to then usable stuff again.
Yeah.
How well this is going to work, I don't know.
I still maintain we should put them in wheelie bins, and they should sort them out at the depot, because people like you and I are not experts at recycling.
No, but it's easy for me. I've got the recycling bins here at where I just go out and put, the paper where the paper has to go, and everything else in the other one, and organics in the other organic ones, and garbage that can't be recycled in the big one. So
yeah. Well, I'm still saying that you and I are not experts at recycling. I believe in recycling, but the trouble is I don't know what is recyclable and what is not recyclable realistically. So I put in my plastic bin what I believe to be correct. And
there's the guidelines, man. Every year we get a guideline. We get a guidelines paper from the from the region, and I put that up on the wall or on the door. So I can see it if there's something questionable. Well, but there usually isn't very much.
Yeah. Anyway, and as I say, they could actually recycle a lot more material if they operated if they operated it more like a factory.
Yeah, well, it's 8:08, and I'm just going to have to, as I always do, mention Gaza. And I do not forget Gaza. The flotilla is on its way. We don't know what the Israelis are going to do with it. They say they're going to attack it and divert it. They've already tried electronic jamming, so their communications are jammed. They've set up a sort of obnoxious type of substances they've dropped on them. They've harried and harassed them with drones, and they say they're going to meet them out there. They are now in the critical zone. They're within the 150 nautical miles of Gaza. This is where the Israelis usually attack any kind of relief festival that comes in. They've attacked Turkish ones. They've attacked other ones. But this is a huge flotilla. And the Italians have kind of chickened out and taken their warship back, but the Spanish have kept their warship in there as a kind of a message to the Israelis. They can't do it. This, if the flotilla is even moderately successful and more flotillas come, they will do a lot more to ending this war than Donald Trump and Netanyahu. Netanyahu's made a chump out of Trump again. He's went to Washington. He said, "This is what we're going to do," and he's left all kinds of options for him to continue the war, no matter what. In the smallest of excuses to charge that war up again. And Hamas, the only leverage they have are the hostages, and they say we want them released within 72 hours. And as soon as Hamas does that, Israel will find a reason to abrogate the agreement and then continue what they're doing. And they won't have any restraint on them now at all, because they won't be afraid of killing their own hostages. I mean, the hostages. So it's a stupid agreement as far as I can see. It has no chance of success because Bibi controls it.
Yeah,
and he controls Donald Trump too, who is a shill of Adelson and the AIPAC and Israel lobby, as is 3/4 of Congress, whether they're Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah.
So I don't really see much success in this. If they can do it, I wish they could, but I don't think there's a whole lot of will for the United States to act independently and just get the job done. So my more faith I have in the flotilla stopping this or beginning to bring this to an end than I do with pompous politicians.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu.
All right.